I sat at the end of the long, polished conference table. My son, Adrian, sat directly across from me with his wife, Melissa, and Henry's younger brother beside him. The lawyer, Mr. Harris, sorted through the thick stack of documents, adjusting his glasses as if he wanted to drag out every second of suspense. Adrian's smirk irritated me. He had been bragging all week, telling me, "Mom, don't get your hopes up. Dad made it clear. You're not getting a dime. It's all mine. You'll see." He said it with the kind of arrogance that made me wonder where I had gone wrong as a mother. I didn't argue with him then. I just let him talk. But deep down, I knew something he didn't. When Harris finally began to speak, the room went silent. According to the last will and testament of Henry Reed, the estate valued at approximately $57 million shall be divided as follows. Adrian leaned forward, his smile growing wider, gripping Melissa's hand like he was already victorious. To my only son, Adrian Reed, I leave $10 million in liquid assets and all existing investment portfolios. Adrian nodded proudly, almost laughing under his breath. But then Harris looked at me, and I knew the moment Adrian's confidence would crack. The remaining $47 million will be placed into a family trust under the control of Julia Reed, my ex-wife, who shall oversee how and when Adrian may access any additional funds. Adrian's face froze. His smirk vanished. What? His voice was sharp and loud. That can't be right. She's not even his wife anymore. Harris stayed calm. Mr. Reed, your father was very specific. He trusted your mother's judgment. She has full authority over the trust. If you want more than your allocated amount, you'll have to request it through her. Adrian looked at me, anger in his eyes. This is a joke, right? You're not going to actually keep this from me, are you? I didn't answer. I just stared back, calm and steady. Inside, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, a sense of power, not over him, but over my own life again. Melissa whispered something to Adrian, but he jerked his hand away and glared at Harris. I want to see that will myself. You will get a copy, but this clause is not negotiable. Your father's instructions were final. Henry and I were married for 25 years. We met in our early 20s when he was still struggling to build his logistics company. Back then, we didn't have much, but we had determination. I supported him through long nights of planning and endless financial setbacks. I managed our small home, raised Adrian, and even worked part-time jobs to make sure Henry had the breathing room to chase his dream. When Henry's business took off, everything changed. Money gave him confidence, but it also gave him distance. He became more focused on maintaining his image than spending time with his family. The man who once came home and sat at the kitchen table to tell me every detail of his day began locking his office door, answering calls in hushed tones, and working late every night. The breaking point came when I found out about his affair. His assistant, a woman barely older than Adrian, was suddenly showing up in expensive clothes, driving the new company car, and answering calls meant for me. When I confronted him, Henry didn't deny it. He simply said, "Julia, I can't live like this anymore. I want out." The divorce was brutal. Adrian was 20 at the time, and he sided with his father. He blamed me for the breakup, believing Henry's version of the story, that I had become dull and no longer understood Henry's ambitions. I didn't fight back because I didn't see the point. I just wanted peace. However, during the divorce negotiations, Henry surprised me. His guilt showed. "You were there when I had nothing," he said during one of our meetings. "You deserve security, even if we can't stay married." He left me with a fair settlement, but more importantly, he created a clause in his future estate plan. "If anything happens to me," Henry told me, I don't want Adrian blowing everything in a few years. You know how he is. You have better judgment. You'll keep him in line. I didn't take it seriously back then. I never imagined Henry would be gone so soon. He was only 57 when the heart attack took him. But here we were, and Henry's trust had placed me in charge of $47 million. Adrian didn't know any of this before the will reading. He assumed the world revolved around him, that his father's success was his birthright. Now I was holding the key, and I could see in his eyes that he hated me for it. The moment we left the lawyer's office, Adrian stormed toward me in the hallway. His wife trailed behind, trying to calm him down, but he was too angry to hear anything. "Are you proud of yourself?" he shouted, his voice echoing in the quiet hallway. "You just sat there like some queen while Harris humiliated me in front of everyone. Do you think Dad meant for you to keep the money from me?" I stopped walking and turned to face him. "Adrian, your father made his decision. He trusted me to manage the trust, and that's what I'll do." Adrian's face turned red. "This is my inheritance, Mom. You're just an ex-wife. You don't deserve a penny of Dad's hard work. He built everything for me." I raised an eyebrow. "Did he?" Because if I remember correctly, I was there too. I was the one making sacrifices when he was working 18 hours a day. I didn't walk away when things were tough. I earned my place in this story. He scoffed. "You're using this trust to get back at me. Admit it, you've always been jealous of how close Dad and I were." I stayed calm. "Adrian, this isn't about jealousy. Your father left you $10 million. That's more than enough to set up your life. If you want more from the trust, you'll have to show me you can handle what you already have." He stared at me like I'd just insulted him. "You think I need your approval? You think I'll ask you for money like some child? No way." "Then that's your choice. But don't stand here blaming me for what your father decided. He saw how careless you were with money. He wanted someone to keep you grounded." Melissa finally stepped in, touching Adrian's arm. "Maybe we should talk about this later," she said softly, looking embarrassed. Adrian pointed a finger at me. "This isn't over. I'll find a way to get that trust out of your hands. Dad's gone, but I won't let you control me." I didn't argue. I simply walked away, leaving him fuming in the hallway. Inside, I wasn't angry. I was disappointed. My own son saw me as the enemy, when all I wanted was for him to grow up and take responsibility. After Adrian's outburst, he went quiet for a while. I figured he needed time to accept the truth, that his father trusted me more than he thought possible. But I was wrong. He hadn't given up. He was just regrouping. Meanwhile, Melissa, his wife, started showing up more often. She began stopping by in the mornings, usually around 9 a.m., always with a smile and a box of pastries or some small gift. "I figured you'd like some company," she'd say, walking in like we were old friends. I didn't mind. I'd always gotten along with Melissa better than with Adrian. She was soft-spoken, polite, and never confrontational. Each morning, I made coffee like I always did. She'd sit at the counter, chatting about random things, TV shows, social media gossip, and sometimes Adrian. She told me how much she wished he would calm down about the money and just be happy with what he had. I believed her. Or at least I wanted to. Melissa even started offering to make the coffee herself. "You always do everything, Julia. Let me help for once," she said one morning. I thought it was thoughtful. I let her. After a few weeks, I started feeling off. At first, it was little things, forgetting where I kept my car keys or what day of the week it was. Then I noticed I was getting dizzy spells, sharp headaches, and sometimes I couldn't remember conversations I just had. I blamed it on stress. Managing a multi-million-dollar trust wasn't easy, and Adrian's constant pushback didn't help. But the symptoms kept getting worse. One morning, I left the front door open and didn't even realize it until my neighbor knocked. Another time, I took the wrong exit on the way to my accountant's office and ended up lost for 30 minutes. I started to worry something was seriously wrong with me. And just as my confidence in my own sanity began to crack, Adrian started showing up with concern in his voice, but triumph in his eyes. "Are you feeling okay, Mom?" he asked one day, sitting on my couch with a pitying expression. "Melissa said you've been forgetting a lot of things lately. Maybe you should see someone. Or maybe I should help you manage the trust, just until you feel better." His phone was always nearby. He took pictures of my house in disarray, videos of me speaking slowly as if I were confused. I had no idea at the time what he was building, but I could sense something wasn't right. Then one morning, everything became clear. Melissa came over as usual. She brought her usual smile and a box of muffins. I was already seated at the kitchen table, pretending to scroll through emails on my phone. She moved around the kitchen like she always did, confident, comfortable, and familiar. She reached for the coffee canister, then turned to the cabinet above the sink. I watched her open a small pill bottle and quickly empty part of its contents into my coffee mug. She stirred, then took a deep breath and turned toward me, smiling. But before she could hand it to me, I stood up and placed my phone on the kitchen counter, screen up. "Put the mug down," I said firmly. She froze. "Julia?" "I've been recording for the last 10 minutes, so go ahead, Melissa. Start talking, or I call the police right now." Her eyes filled with panic. The mug trembled in her hand before she quickly placed it on the table. "Please don't call the police," she said, her voice cracking. "I didn't want to do it." "Then why did you?" Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Adrian, he threatened me. My mother is in a care home, she's sick, and we can barely afford her medication. He said if I didn't help him, he'd cut me off and stop paying for her treatments. He told me this was the only way to make sure he got what was rightfully his. He said you wouldn't listen unless you were forced out." I took a deep breath, my hands clenched at my sides. "So every day, you came here and poisoned me." "I didn't mean to hurt you, I swear. I thought I could stop before it went too far, but every time I tried to back out, he reminded me about my mother." I walked to the counter and picked up my phone. "I could hand this over right now. You'd be arrested before noon." Melissa broke down completely. "Please, Julia, I'm so sorry. I'll do anything. Just please don't ruin my life. I wasn't trying to destroy you. I was just scared." I looked at her for a long moment, then said, "You're going to keep doing what you've been doing. You're going to keep visiting, smiling, pretending, but now on, you'll be doing it for me." She looked up, confused. "You're going to continue feeding Adrian exactly what he wants to hear, and you're going to record every single conversation you have with him. Every time he tells you something about his plans, you tell me. You don't warn him, you don't cover for him. You do this, or I turn the recording over and you go to jail. It's your choice." Melissa nodded quickly. "Okay, I'll do it. I'll help you." I didn't say anything else. I walked back to my seat and picked up my cold coffee, the one she didn't touch, the one I made for myself. The trap was set. Now it was just a matter of time. 2 weeks later, Adrian made his move. I got the call from Harris, the estate lawyer, on a Tuesday morning. "Julia, Adrian and his legal counsel have requested a meeting. He claims there are concerns about your mental capacity to manage the trust." I didn't react. "Let him bring whatever he has," I replied. "I'll be there." We scheduled the meeting for Thursday. I spent the next 2 days preparing. When Thursday came, I walked into Harris's office dressed simply, no makeup, hair pulled back, and wearing glasses I didn't need, just enough to give the illusion of someone trying to hold it together. Adrian was already seated with his lawyer, a young man in a fitted navy blue suit who looked like he spent more time on Instagram than in court. Adrian barely looked at me. He was confident again, arrogant, in control. Melissa sat beside him, quiet and composed. Harris opened the meeting. "So, Adrian, you've requested this review? On what grounds?" Adrian sat up straighter. "Over the last few weeks, my mother has been showing serious signs of mental decline. Confusion, forgetfulness, poor judgment. I have photos, videos, and personal accounts from my wife, Melissa, confirming all of this. I believe she is no longer mentally fit to manage the trust left by my father, and I am petitioning for conservatorship of both her and the trust. She can confirm it all. All eyes turned to her. She took a slow breath, then stood up.
"I'm sorry, Adrian," she said. He blinked. "Sorry for what?" "I can't lie for you anymore." Adrian frowned. "What are you talking about?" Melissa pulled out her phone from her purse and placed it on the table. "I have recordings, voice notes, everything. You asked me to drug your mother's coffee to make her appear unstable. You told me if I didn't help you, you'd stop paying for my mother's medical care. You planned all of this." The room went still. Adrian's face drained of all color. "What the hell are you doing?" he hissed at her. "I'm telling the truth," she said calmly, "because I can't be part of this anymore." Adrian turned to Harris. "She's lying. She's doing this to get back at me. I don't know what she's talking about." "She's not lying," I cut in, placing a printed transcript on the table. "I have my own copy of the recording. I caught her putting something in my coffee. She confessed everything. I told her I wouldn't press charges if she helped expose you." Adrian stared at me, speechless. Then, out of nowhere, he laughed, a dry, unhinged kind of laugh. "So what now, Mom? You're going to ruin your own son over money?" I looked him straight in the eyes. "I'm going to protect what your father left behind, and I'm going to make sure you never pull a stunt like this again." Adrian slammed his hands on the table. "You're doing this to punish me. You think I don't deserve it just because Dad trusted you instead of me?" "No," I said, standing up. "I'm doing this because you're dangerous. You were willing to poison me for money. You don't deserve the responsibility that comes with power." Adrian wiped his face with both hands, shaking. "Please, Mom, I just wanted what was rightfully mine. That trust was supposed to come to me." I pulled out the agreement I'd already prepared. "You're going to sign this," I told him. "It states that you will no longer pursue the trust in any legal capacity. You will attend mandatory therapy for 1 year. You will resign from any company board or leadership tied to your father's business. And you will stay away from me. A restraining order will be filed. If you break any of these terms, the confession goes public. You'll face criminal charges." He stared at the paper in disbelief. "You're serious?" "Dead serious." He started to cry. Real, ugly sobs. "You're my mother. And you're the man who tried to take everything from me using poison and lies." Harris remained quiet, but attentive. The lawyer beside Adrian looked like he wanted to disappear. After a long pause, Adrian picked up the pen and signed. Melissa silently slid her wedding ring on the table and stood up. "I'll have the divorce papers sent to you," she said, looking directly at Adrian. Then she turned to me. "I'm sorry, and thank you for giving me a second chance." I nodded once. Adrian sat there, broken and trembling, as everyone walked out of the room. In the weeks after the conservatorship meeting, everything changed. Adrian stopped contacting me. He had no choice. The restraining order was official, the signed agreement was in Harris's hands, and all the recordings, his wife's and mine, were secured in both digital and physical storage. If he ever tried to challenge the trust or pull another stunt, all I had to do was forward the files to the authorities. He resigned from the company board 3 days after the meeting. The announcement was short and vague, personal reasons, but I knew the truth, and so did Harris. Melissa filed for divorce the same week. She called me before serving him. He's trying to talk me out of it, crying, promising to change. I didn't ask what she planned to do. She'd already made her choice. A few days later, I visited her mother in the care home. Melissa wasn't there when I arrived, but the nurse recognized my name. "She's doing better," the woman told me. "We finally got her on the full medication plan. Her daughter said someone stepped in to help. That someone was me. After everything Melissa had been through, what she'd risked to help me set things right, I couldn't turn my back on her. I contacted the care facility's billing department and set up automatic payments, full coverage, no more interruptions, no more threats hanging over her head. Melissa came to see me that evening. She tried to thank me, but I stopped her. You didn't do it for me. You did it for your mother. That matters. But now it's your job to build something honest from here on. She nodded. I will. I promise. As for me, I focused on taking control of what was mine. I met with Harris and the financial advisors and officially restructured the trust. I made sure every dollar would be accounted for, every investment protected, and that no one, not Adrian, not anyone else, could touch it without my approval. I also added new provisions. If Adrian ever wanted to earn anything more from it, he'd have to complete therapy and prove his financial responsibility through a third-party audit. It wasn't about revenge. It was about boundaries, about control, about protecting what Henry left behind, not just in money, but in principle. For years, I thought being quiet, being polite, and stepping aside made me strong. But now I knew better. Strength was saying no, about drawing a line and refusing to let anyone cross it, even your own child. People asked questions, of course. Why Adrian had stepped down, why Melissa filed for divorce, why I suddenly looked so calm again. I didn't answer any of them. I didn't need to. The truth was safe where it needed to be. And for the first time in years, I felt safe too.